Right friends, welcome back to editorial discussion of 28th February. Today I am going to deliberate on 4 issues. The first issue is challenges from Islamic State, and the next issue we are going to deliberate on solar cells dispute case, and here I am going to deliberate in detail about the role of World Trade Organization and various treaties. You will have clear picture about what is the role of World Trade Organization WTO. Another issue is with regard to NOTA, none of the above option in the ballot, and it is too early to conclude what it indicates. I would like to spend around 3-4 minutes on that article. So, these 3 articles appeared in The Hindu today. One article pertaining to Saturday, that is with regard to medical education, challenges faced in the medical education. I am going to present with deep analysis, and these 4 we are going to deliberate today. The 5th one, that is with regard to bilateral investment treaties and tribals rights, bilateral investment treaties and tribals rights, which appeared in The Hindu yesterday. I would like to present it as a news capsule because it is quite lengthy. So, 4 aspects we are going to deliberate today. Islamic State challenge. Here 3-4 points. What is the origin of Islamic State? Then what is the present status as far as Islamic State activities are concerned in our country? Then the third one is what are going to be the challenges. These are 3 aspects I am going to deliberate. Islamic State, this actually has grown out of Al-Qaeda. You may have a doubt when Al-Qaeda was started. Please do not forget, in the name of chemical weapons, United States of America invaded Iraq in the year 2003. You have to go back to 2003. USA invaded Iraq, and subsequently Al-Qaeda was born basically with Sunni militants. And please do not forget, world Muslims are basically 2 sects, predominant sects I am talking about, Sunnis and Shias. Sunnis are around 70 to 80% of total Muslim population, and Al-Qaeda was predominantly Sunni militant group, or you can say it is a Sunni militant group. Al-Qaeda was born after United States of America invaded Iraq. Subsequently, Islamic State was born out of Al-Qaeda. Then 2 conditions favored for the growth of Islamic State. 2 conditions favored for the growth of Islamic State. First aspect is Arab Spring in Syria. Against authoritarian President Bashar al-Assad, several groups, or you can say several rebel groups, were formed in Syria in 2011. That is a part of Arab Spring which occurred in several countries. As part of Arab Spring in Syria against President Bashar al-Assad, rebel groups were formed, and Islamic State joined the rebel groups. And looking at the vacuum in certain areas, looking at the lawlessness in certain areas of Syria, it strengthened in Syria. And another important aspect took place in Iraq. After United States of America invaded Iraq, subsequently during 2011 or 12, United States of America forces started withdrawing from Iraq, and Iraqi population basically Sunnis, they were not happy with the sectarian Shia government at Baghdad. Sunni people were not happy with the sectarian government led by Shias at Baghdad. That was another positive factor for Islamic State to spread its tentacles across Iraq, right. So, in 2013, the group seized control of territory in Syria, and subsequently it also seized certain parts of western Iraq. So, the two favorable conditions in Syria and Iraq resulted in the establishment of its caliphate at Raqqa. Raqqa is the place in Syria. Please look into this. This ISIS in those days, now the present name is Islamic State. So, Islamic State extended its reach in Iraq as well as Syria, and Raqqa is its de facto capital. And another important aspect is it totally eliminated one particular community, that is Yazidis. You see here Sinjar, Sinjar is the place where nearer to this Sinjar mountains one ethnic group, Yazidis. You may have a question, Yazidis belongs to which country? Yazidis used to stay in this part of Iraq, and they were either eliminated or enslaved by IS, and subsequently United States of America started bombing Islamic State, and in recent times the spread of Islamic State in these two countries reduced by around 25%, but the biggest problem is Islamic State is extending to other countries. And at the same time, Libya is one example, and Islamic State's presence is there even in country like Afghanistan, and Pakistan also it has got its presence. So, this is the present day reality, and as things stand today, the influence of Islamic State in both the Syria as well as Iraq is reducing. At the same time, its influence is increasing in several countries across the world, right. You may have a doubt, present news item, the present news item is alarming for India. Here, two suspected Islamic State associates were arrested in Gujarat, and on the same day in a drone strike in Afghanistan, a person from Kerala who joined Islamic State was also killed in drone strike in Afghanistan. So, it indicates that slowly Islamic State presence is also being felt across some pockets of the country. So, is India vulnerable? So, frankly speaking, if you compare it with other countries, this IS has not found much resonance in our country, and it is not recruiting through local communities. And what is being happened? IS recruitment is taking place through madrasas in Pakistan as well as Afghanistan, but fortunately in our country such type of recruitment is not taking place. And at present in India, the activities of Islamic State are mainly through online propaganda. Through online activities they are trying to recruit, and in a nutshell India is not much affected as on date, but India should be cautious. And what is to be done? High level intelligence and counter terror operations must continue, and more than that, the required aspect immediately to be done by India is, India should have dialogue with religious leaders. Proper dialogue between Muslim religious leaders as well as government will reduce the propaganda activities of Islamic State, and specific de-radicalization programs must take place in some pockets of the country at least, and isolated arrests should not be blown out of proportion. If a person is arrested somewhere, it should not be blown out of proportion, because there is every possibility that some people may blow it out of proportion. And in some cases in India we have seen the cases of bigotry. What is the meaning of bigotry? The meaning of bigotry is religious hatred. So, some isolated case should not lead to religious hatred against particular religion or community, right friends. So, India should be cautious. So, that is what is evident from the editorial. Look into the next one, Nota and the Indian voter. I would like to spend 3-4 minutes. This is none of the above option in the ballot, and please do not forget electronic voting is taking place, and for electronic voting we have two, one is ballot unit, other one is control unit. This ballot unit is where the candidates press the button and candidate's name symbol will be given, and at the end none of the above option is also given. That means if you are not interested to vote to any of the candidates, you can press the none of the above button, and it is an act of resentment but not rejection. Even 50% of the votes are for none of the above, even more than 50% of the votes are for none of the above, then also the candidate who get maximum votes will be elected. So, what I mean to convey is the introduction of none of the above option is just for the sake of acting it as just resentment, not rejection. That is the most important point to note. And history, if you look at this, none of the above option came into existence in 2013. Why? In People's Union for Civil Liberties versus Union of India judgment, Supreme Court directed to implement none of the above option, and India became the 14th country. But interesting point to note is it is not right to reject, but it is only expressing resentment. Even 80% of the people may press none of the above, but the majority candidate of remaining 20% will get elected. That is the meaning of it is not right to reject. The candidate with maximum votes, irrespective of number of nota votes polled, will be elected, and first introduced in 2013. Some analysis is given in this newspaper, but there is partial truth in it. You see, in the assembly elections to 2015, Delhi registered just 0.4% of nota, whereas Bihar registered 2.49%. In my personal opinion, it is basically because of illiteracy and lack of awareness about exercising franchise with the ballot units. That is the reason for more percentage of nota in Bihar in comparison to Delhi, because Delhi is well educated, and at the same time awareness levels are also much better in Delhi in comparison to interior parts of Bihar. Second point is, in 24 Lok Sabha constituencies, nota is more than the margin of the winning candidates. It does not matter, because after all we have to see the majority of the votes polled other than nota. Then reserved constituencies have seen a relatively larger number of nota votes, and here is it social prejudice or illiteracy? In my personal opinion, it is probably due to lack of awareness. Because of the reason, most of the reserved constituencies are situated in the interior parts of the country. When the reserved constituencies are situated in interior parts of the country, then the interesting point here is there the literacy level in comparison to cities and towns will definitely be less, and that is the reason it is not a social prejudice. Then the next one is left wing extremism regions recorded higher percentage of nota, and is it a protest against the government or illiteracy? And one interesting point to note is Bastar, Nilgiris, Navrangpur got 3 slots. Probably it indicates a lack of awareness, but not resentment against the state. Then if that is the case, Nilgiris is not affected by Naxals, and why it is onto the top? Because of the reason this Bastar, Nilgiris, Navrangpur, they came to the top 3 positions because of lack of awareness and illiteracy, but not resentment against the state. So, what I mean to conclude is nota has got not much effect, and the percentage variation in nota is probably due to lack of awareness and illiteracy levels, nothing more than that. And a question now arises, and at present nota is only acting as expressing resentment, but can we go for right to reject? Adoption of right to rejection, is it required or not? And it requires wider debate, and at present this is not being debated in our country, right. See in the light, this is a solar dispute. In a nutshell, India imposed domestic content requirements for the procurement of solar cells, and United States of America approached World Trade Organization and they won the case, we lost the case. And in retaliation, probably India approached World Trade Organization with a similar case against some United States of America states. Now the article says both the sides should settle amicably, and going to WTO is not the right solution, and both the sides should settle the matter amicably. That is the meaning of, that is the essence of this article. And I would like to tell you a lot more things about WTO. This World Trade Organization, it came into existence in 1995, and at present it has got 164 members, and from the examination perspective, Liberia and Afghanistan are the two new members. Liberia and Afghanistan are the two new members, and if you add these two members, the total strength of World Trade Organization goes to 164. Here I would like to tell you in a nutshell about what are the principles of trade in general as per WTO. There are 4 principles of trade. First one is most favored nation. Many people will have confusion about most favored nation. Most favored nation is not favoring some country. That is, no discrimination between their trading partners. If one particular product has got 5% customs duty when it is coming from Russia, 5% customs duty, and the same product when it is coming from another country like Cuba should also have 5%. So, if a product is 5% customs duty when it is coming from one country, and the same product must have same customs duty, that means you should not discriminate between the trading partners. That is the meaning of most favored nation. It is not favoring any country. Second point is national treatment. This is another cornerstone of WTO. National treatment means imported and locally produced goods must be treated equally once the goods enter the country. Imported goods and locally produced goods must be treated equally, and it applies for not only goods but also services. At the same time, intellectual property rights also. Intellectual property means creations of the mind like patents, trademarks and copyrights. So, it should be equally applicable. Once a product enters our country, the treatment must be equal. The treatment we are giving for the national products must be given same to the international products also once they enter the country. So, this is national treatment. Third one is lowering trade barriers. Trade barriers should be lowered. A country cannot altogether eliminate trade barriers. Please do not forget, trade barriers are of two types: tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. If customs duty is imposed, that is tariff barriers. And if we say we cannot import more than 1 lakh tons of wheat, that is non-tariff barrier. So, there is a difference between tariff barrier and non-tariff barrier. Non-tariff barrier is difficulty in getting import licenses, import bans, specific quotas, complex regulatory environment. These are non-tariff barriers, and tariff barriers are imposing customs duties. So, here lowering the trade barriers is another principle of WTO. The fourth one is predictable. Trade barriers must not be raised arbitrarily. Trade barriers must be predictable. No arbitrary raising. They must be predictable. Today it is 5%, suppose customs duty. Tomorrow country cannot make 30%. So, it should be predictable predictable regime. So, these are the principles of trade. So, as to ensure these principles of trade, WTO has got 4 primary agreements, 4 main agreements. The one is GATT. GATT means General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Basically, this is for reduction of tariffs and other trade barriers. As I have already told you, trade barriers must be reduced. So, for reduction of trade barriers, this GATT is the agreement. This was framed in 1947 itself, and in the modified form of 1994, it is in vogue now as part of WTO framework. Then second point is GATS. Just like goods, you should have for services. So, it is General Agreement on Trade in Services, and it is the multilateral trading system for services. And similarly, TRIPS. TRIPS is for intellectual property rights. So, it is an international legal agreement, and it sets minimum standards for regulation by national governments of many forms of intellectual property. Here, intellectual property rights must also be up to the prescribed minimum standards. You may have a doubt what is meant by intellectual property. This patent, copyright, trademark. These 3 are intellectual property rights, and WTO through its agreements like TRIPS, through its agreement TRIPS, TRIPS is trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. It sets minimum standards for regulation by national governments. Another one is TRIMS. TRIMS is basically with regard to investments. So, 4 main agreements. One is goods, reducing tariff barriers in goods. Second one is services. Third one is intellectual property rights. Fourth one is investments. So, here rules that apply to the domestic companies shall also apply to foreign investors, and foreign investors should not be discriminated. That is as per TRIMS, trade related investment measures. So, these 4 are main agreements. So, if something is violated, as I have already told you, the main principles are these 4: most favored nation, national treatment, lowering trade barriers, predictable regime. So, these 4 are main principles, and to ensure these principles, there are 4 agreements, one for goods, other for services, other for intellectual property, other for investments. So, these 4 one should have clear idea about when you are looking at WTO. And if you come to the present case, please understand the difference between. Frequently we come across what is a solar cell, what is a solar module, what is a solar array. This one piece is a solar cell, then solar module, this arranged like this, solar cells arranged like this, solar panel, and when panels are arranged like this, this is a solar array. So, solar cell, solar module, solar array, and basically the present case is with regard to this solar cells, procurement of solar cells and modules. And there is one clause, domestic content requirement. In the agreement, there is one clause, or you can say as per World Trade Organization, there is one exception for domestic content requirement, or you can say for government procurements. For government procurements, government can go for domestic content requirements. The meaning is it can favor domestic firms over the foreign firms. It can firm domestically manufactured goods in comparison to foreign goods for the government procurements. And National Solar Mission, Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission stipulated certain domestic content requirements. Certain domestic content requirements for solar cells were stipulated in this Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission. And here the local firms, the solar cells manufactured by local firms are to be procured for some of the contracts under Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission, and it is not palatable for United States of America, and United States of America has gone to World Trade Organization, and World Trade Organization dispute resolution mechanism has ruled against India. And then India approached appellate body also ruled against India. So, the total case has gone against India and in favor of United States of America. So, in a nutshell, this domestic content requirement is not in tune with WTO regulations, and basically two agreements were violated. As I have already told you, GATT was violated and TRIMS was violated. So, that is the WTO total judgment. I think you got clear idea about it, and India's argument and World Trade Organization argument. India stated that the power generated under Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission was bought by NTPC, power was purchased by NTPC, NTPC is public sector undertaking, so the transaction comes under government procurement. Government's intention is NTPC is procuring power, that is why solar cells comes under government procurement. WTO, or you can say the WTO's dispute resolution panel stated that the domestic content requirement is not on power. NTPC is procuring power only. NTPC is not procuring cells. So, the domestic content requirement is not valid. That is the WTO view. Here you see the NTPC is procuring power only. It is not procuring solar cells. It is not procuring solar cells. So, the WTO's contention is it is not covered by the government procurement exemptions, as NTPC is procuring power, but not these solar cells. So, it is not covered by the government procurement exemptions, and at the same time trade related investment measures restricts procurement for domestic firms, right. So, that is all about this NTPC, all about this WTO ruling against India. And now the article, as we have discussed, says that, as I have already told you at the beginning, India approached World Trade Organization probably as a retaliatory measure against United States of America, because some of the states in United States of America for renewable energy projects have got similar clauses. So, it seems to be retaliatory measure, and the article suggests that instead of going for retaliatory measure, USA and India should sit together and solve the matter, right. So, let us move on to the next one. This is the last item for today, but most important, betraying the oath. This article appeared on Saturday, that is 25th February in the Hindu, and all is not well with medical education in our country. For 10 minutes I would like to spend on this. As I have already told you, bilateral investment treaties and tribal rights, that is another important article which appeared yesterday. I will try to cover as separate capsule. This is betraying the oath. How the medical profession, or you can say the medical education, has gone down so low in our country. And the expected question is, do you feel that medical education is poorly regulated in our country? Critically comment on the functioning of Medical Council of India, or explain the circumstances which led to the formation of overseeing committee by the Supreme Court. These type of questions you can expect. This oversight committee or overseeing committee was formed to monitor the working of Medical Council of India. Here Supreme Court interfered, and you may have a specific doubt, why Supreme Court interfered and how Supreme Court can interfere. These two things I would like to answer. Supreme Court can interfere as per Article 142(1). As per Article 142(1), Supreme Court can interfere when Supreme Court feels that complete justice is to be done in the national interest. When complete justice is required, then Supreme Court can interfere under Article 142(1). This is very important. And what are the circumstances which led to the interference? Here the issue is Medical Council of India is bogged down by corruption allegations, and Supreme Court interfered and established oversight committee to monitor the working of Medical Council of India. And here you see MCA is bogged down by corruption allegations for several years. Subsequently, Dr. Ranjit Roy Chaudhary panel was constituted in July 14 to study the working of Medical Council, and it submitted its report in September 14, but no action by the government. And Parliamentary Standing Committee on Health and Family Welfare was constituted, and the report was submitted to the Parliament, no action by the government. Under these circumstances, Supreme Court intervened basically to do complete justice under Article 142(1) and instituted oversight committee to look at the aspect of doing complete justice, right, and serious problems and malpractices by various medical colleges. What are various malpractices? And unfortunate aspect is this: ghost doctors, fake patients. Please understand, there are ghost doctors, fake patients. That means to establish a medical college, it requires an attached hospital, and hospital will be there in namesake, and subsequently when any inspection is there, ghost doctors will be appointed, fake patients will be taken, and life-saving equipments will be taken on loan. So, this is the common practice in medical colleges. This is the unfortunate aspect of our medical education in our country. And donations, which runs into 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs for graduates, crores of rupees for postgraduates. Then professors are hired. Unfortunate aspect is professors are hired to satisfy Medical Council of India only for 3-4 days. Then political patronage. Most of the medical colleges are run by the politicians who are now MLAs, MPs. Then corruption is too much in Medical Council of India, and a case in point is former chief of Medical Council of India was under investigation for a bribe of rupees 2 crore for giving MCI note, and admission fee is fixed by the state regulatory bodies, but it is not followed in true letter and spirit. And another important aspect is there are intermediaries who can provide ghost doctors, fake students, fake equipment. So, there are intermediaries only to satisfy MCI guidelines. So, what are the steps to be taken to reform medical education? Here, ban the capitation fee, and admission to medical colleges must be based on merit only. Probably government is planning to do it through NEET, and this must be based on merit only, and there is an urgent need to reduce the cost of medical education in the country, and access to even rural hinterland must be taken up. Then another important aspect is some of the doctors are prescribing, this is very unfortunate aspect, some of the doctors are prescribing unnecessary diagnostic tests and avoidable surgeries, even heart surgeries. As per one report, 30% of heart surgeries are avoidable. Doctors, for the sake of just money, are resorting to excess diagnostic tests and avoidable surgeries. And another important aspect is doctor to population ratio is at present 1 per every 1674 persons, and it should be 1 for every 1000 as per WHO guidelines. So, there is a need for increasing the number of doctors in our country, and for starting the colleges, remove the bottlenecks, and basic criteria should be the availability of facilities to impart quality medical education, and increase the number of postgraduate seats and at present only 25,000 postgraduate seats are there against the capacity of 55,000 graduate seats, and the imbalance must be corrected through not for profit initiatives, and MCA is totally opaque and transparency is the need of the hour. Right. So, these are the steps required to reform medical education. So, friends, we deliberated 4 important issues today, and tribal issues and tribal regulatory issues and bilateral investment treaties. I will produce one capsule. So, with this, let us conclude today's newspaper editorial discussion. Please do join at 12 noon for comprehension discussion. Have a nice day. Thank you.